Beth Gibbons, Live's Outgrown, album review, let's chat about it. Hey friends, what's going on? John here from What's Spinning here tonight to chat about this technical debut solo album from legendary Portishead member Beth Gibbons, who for many years in the 90s helped shape the trip-hop sound alongside Portishead and a few other notable artists as well. And since then has been, a little mysterious as far as her solo material goes. She has, certainly teased putting out a full-length solo album for some time. However, we haven't got it up until this point, even if she has been busy as far as features go, production, as well as collaborative records. She's done quite a few of those. But as far as a technical solo full-length debut album in the year 2024, we are finally getting it. And leading up to this thing, I was very curious to hear the direction that Beth was going to go with it. I thought that the singles definitely, you needed to sit with them a little bit. You needed to turn your brain on because they were, pretty experimental, definitely in the weirder side of chamber folk. But, I kind of expected that leading up to this album. And listening to this thing, it's pretty apparent that Beth absolutely did not hold back here. Tell Me Who You Are Today is a pretty fascinating start that really does usher in just about every sound you're going to hear throughout this record. It is a very hushed, it is a very intimate, it is a very meditative sound, and get used to me saying that because a lot of this album is. And I've been talking lately about a lot of very meditative, very spiritual records, but this one has a serious personal edge to it. It's a very revealing track that almost sounds therapeutic for Beth. And once again, you are going to have to turn your brain on for this record. It is certainly a little out of the box. A lot of this record is actually pretty formless, and as far as genre goes, often hops around a little bit. But Beth's commanding vocal performance, the patience here, the tension, the revealing lyrics, all of it is pretty stunning. Not only that, but it is also just so easy to get lost in. I can say a lot of the same thing about Floating on a Dream. I can say a lot of the same things on Floating on a Moment. I mean, ever since I heard this track as a single, I was kind of stunned by just, how freaky and weird it was. And just how formless it gets as it goes on. And just hearing this, I mean, you can kind of tell that all bets are off with this album. It's another very freaky track with a bizarre, very winding riff and another very stoic yet commanding performance from Beth. But as ethereal and weird as some of these performances get, there's also just an undying sense of cool, much like her work in Portishead in the late 90s and 2000s. But while she does remain that sense of cool, this is very much an adventurous album that does not sit still. This is far from her playing it safe. No, very quickly, she has kind of made her own very unique sound that's very haunting, yet very beautiful. Mysterious as well, absolutely. Burden of Life is also really good. I mean, as subtle and as hushed as this album is, it does not sit still for a minute. A lot of these tracks just sound like they have, I don't know just how to say this, but like a mind of their own. They're very formless. And like I said, as far as genre goes, it's very hard to describe a lot of this album. And lyrically, it remains a very telling and personal sort of journey of a record for Beth. That alongside of this instrumental, which has really tense moments, but also really beautiful moments, kind of sounds like a really great A24 horror movie soundtrack. It was made for Beth's music. There's a lot to take in, and there's a lot of drama as well, but just turn your brain on and take it all in, man. And Lost Changes, I feel like, is one of the easiest tracks to take in here. It's got a killer pacing. It's got a ton of tension. But it also has this sort of old school singer-songwriter feel to it. And from a sheer beauty stance, I don't think there's many other tracks here that get much more beautiful than this. The strings are beautiful, and the grace to this chorus is absolutely stunning. And yeah, it's one of the longer cuts here. It's almost 6 minutes, but it honestly breezes by. Now, I'm going to be real with y'all. There are 2 tracks here that are a little too freaky and weird for me and do kind of, I don't want to say off-put me to this record, but definitely take me out of the great mood that I was in. And like I said, Beth really doesn't hold back on this record at all. But then I hear tracks like Rewind, and I kind of wish that she did. Instrumentally, this is one of the wildest and just constantly shifting tracks here, which could be really exciting, but honestly, for me, this is one track here where it just deters from Beth's performance. And it's a real shame because Beth's vocal work on this track is actually pretty awesome. It's one of her better vocal performances on this album, but instrumentally, this just gets obnoxious by the end of it. And honestly, I have a lot of the same feelings on For Sale. I think it's the worst track here. Once again, another very stripped down, very hushed track, and I think it just goes a little too far into that realm. The wiry instrumental definitely has its moments, but once again, I feel like it's just taking away from Beth's performance. And sure, there are moments of mystique that are kind of interesting, but this is a real disconnect of a track. I mean, outside of that, though, yeah, it took us forever to get a serious, full-blown solo album from Beth, but I really hope that it's not the last one that we get because what she brings to the table here is really interesting. Reaching out in Beth's own way, this is basically her most intense track here. It's got a frantic, hushed instrumental that's practically bluesy at points, but it's the backing vocals here that really bring everything together. This track just feels so haunted, yet so full of life. And it only gets more impressive when the horns barge their way in. It honestly might be the best track here. It's really thrilling. Oceans is one of the most stripped down and genuinely ethereal tracks here. I can almost feel like, fans of Marissa Nadler or Chelsea Wolfe would be really into this. Maybe even Emma Ruth Rundle. It's easily one of the most tortured and haunted and truly chilling tracks here as well. And not only that, but instrumentally, I just feel like this is Beth at her most comfortable and most complete sounding. Every last detail about the track is just right where it should be. Everything about the track, every last detail is just right where it should be. Beyond the Sun is really, really cool late in the album as well. It's probably one of the most instantaneous and just straight up folk tunes that we get on this record, but honestly, I think that's what makes it so interesting. Mostly because there is so much drama and visual storytelling packed in, and Beth lyrically is on her A game. And not only that, but within this album that has been instrumentally pretty hard to describe, we have reached the hellish jazz section of this record, and it is pretty exciting stuff. And Whispering Love as a finale is heavenly. And it's one of the lightest and most sobering moments on the record. Beth also lyrically brings in more personal, very revealing lyrics. That, alongside of Beth's vocals, some woodwinds that pop in, some really kaleidoscopic production. It is a really just stunning finale that I didn't know that I needed, and it's only grown on me. Much like a lot of this album, my first couple of listens, it's a lot to take in. Beth doesn't hold back here. It's a freaky, weird album that doesn't want to sit still, but it's also really sobering, beautiful listen that shows that Beth still creatively and personally has so much to offer, and it gets a little too weird for me at some points, but overall, this is a great record. I'm feeling a very late 8 on this album, and I hope it's not the end of Beth's solo work. I really do hope we hear more soon. But let me know what you all think down below. If you like the video, be sure to give us a like, give us a subscribe, and let me know down below if you would like for me to chat about in the future. And until next time, have a great day, friends.